First three parts of my life story take me up to about the age of 34. Up until that point, I had no idea what was going on in my life. Things had been more difficult, far more difficult than they should have been for me. But at that point, I had overcome all of it successfully. I had a successful career. I'd started writing music at that point. Life was going really well for me. World traveler, on top of things, or so I thought. On my link tree, there's a link to the prelude to my gang stalking. And that covers the period a year before I moved up to Brisbane and the actual gang stalking proper began. The entire thing was a psychological attack, warfare against me. The intent was to utterly destroy me, take everything that I had earned, burn it to the ground. Everything that I had earned, as much as it could have been, was undermined. My entire life. I didn't realize that at the time. The end of 2003, after the psychological operations had begun, I had enough clues given to me to be able to piece everything together myself. And I simply could not accept where the clues were going. It was madness. It put me at the center of a vast conspiracy, so many people involved, virtually everyone who got close to me or put an effort into becoming a friend in my life were all working against me. I couldn't accept it, so I didn't for years. May 18th, 2022. That was when I came to full acceptance of my life. It took me years, took me decades. There is one assumption that if I make about my life, and in general, everything in my life makes sense. And that assumption is that there is a breeding program, human breeding program. The purpose of propagating enlightenment genetics. It is done without the awareness or the consent of the individuals possessing the genetics. And everything is done to prevent the individuals from taking advantage of their genetic inheritance. In my case, narcissism was used. Narcissism is anti-enlightenment. If you are a narcissist and you experienced gnosis as I did, it would drive you insane at the very least. Could possibly kill you. As it was, even with all the work that I'd put into myself, I still maybe 93, 95% ready for it. That 5% made me wobbly for a good year. Without that work, had I pursued the path of the narcissist, I wouldn't have survived it. Anyone who is a narcissist or who's trained to be a narcissist would never be able to access their genetic inheritance. That was the control. When I was 17 years old, an attempt was made to breed me with someone who would have been my narcissistic equal had I not put effort into myself. A lot of weird things happened around that. Something's going on here. People are screwing around. A lot of things that didn't make sense. People doing things out of the ordinary. Without the context, it made no sense at all. If I assume that I was breeding stock, attempting to be bred, it all makes sense. My severe depression at the age of 20, that was an assassination. The long dark night of the soul may have been natural. It may have been induced, I don't know. But the depression was definitely induced within weeks of the breakup with my ex. The onset was so rapid, and if I remember the sensation, it felt like my mind was being torn. It wasn't a natural process. I didn't slide into it. I was forced into it. It should have destroyed me. When that didn't destroy me, I became a subject of scientific curiosity. I was allowed to finish my degree in relative peace. My trip to the UK was to put me in close proximity to those responsible for treating me as livestock, and to poke and prod and find weakness, measure, test, observe. My gnosis was forced. That first quarter ounce of cannabis that I had, there was something else in it. Something that only affected me. It triggered my gnosis. It catalyzed the event. Cannabis on its own wouldn't have done it. I'm sure of that. Then after 4 years of observing the effects of my enlightenment, not after, during. The 4 years was used in preparation for the prelude before my gang stalking. It was all planned. It was all organized. Everyone around me, everyone the closest to me, were minders. People who pretended to be my friends did so to get close, to be able to pull shit and turn their backs. Leave me holding the bag of responsibility, feeling guilty about things about which I had no guilt. I would have been destroyed long ago had I been ruled by my ego. The events were planned and executed in such a way that if I was ego-driven, I would have destroyed myself. I would have been left holding the bag. First two events were two separate workplace consecutive bullying incidences. One really bad and one an order of magnitude worse. That softened me up. That created the psychological wound that the gang stalking rubbed raw for a decade and a half. When that wasn't going to be enough to take me down, remote torture was used. Gut rape, sleep deprivation. It's being used on me right now. But not at this exact instant. Last night. Slept for maybe an hour at a time, maybe 3 times. Every time I was forced awake, and within minutes of being forced awake, a buzzing pressure made it impossible to go back to sleep. And the first time my metabolism was raised to the point that I was almost sweating. I was uncomfortable in the middle of winter. Wore a t-shirt until my metabolism calmed down, and then I felt the cold. And if I could keep my metabolism at that level, I'd probably lose a lot of weight very quickly. It's completely unnatural. I don't know how it's being done. My biology is being used against me. The whole purpose was to ensure that I would never have a life of my own. I would never grow roots, that I would never establish myself or have any influence or power over anyone else, which I never wanted. I only wanted power over my life, and I fucking earned it, and it was stolen from me. And even now, they try to steal a little bit from me every day, until there'll be nothing left to steal. To minimize me, to contain me, to control me, to define me. They will fail. This shit has been going on for thousands of years, curtailing the evolution of the human species for the benefit of criminal shit stains. When we were just a bunch of monkeys throwing rocks at each other, it didn't fucking matter. The universe gave leniency to the criminals, giving them the opportunity to learn from their mistakes, to correct their errors. And they double down, they triple down, they quadruple down. The injustice against my life. I am a Christ. I fucking earned that title. To be treated the way that I have been treated is a fate worse than death. I have been treated worse than rapists and child molesters and murderers get treated in prison. Tried to get me to punch my own ticket. That ain't gonna happen now. It doesn't kill you, make you stronger? Sure, why not? I'm going to use that to stop the criminals who did this to me, to all my predecessors. The criminals running this species must be stopped at all cost. The threat this species pose under current management is intolerable.